Hey there! Can you believe that I'm actually on time for once? I hope everybody's doing well this morning. So I either complain about it being too hot or too cold. Today it's too cold. Yesterday was 70. Right now it's about 48, something like that. So if you see me rubbing my hands, it's because I'm a little bit cool. I hope everybody's doing well sitting inside where it's nice and warm. I can't believe it's this cold down in Metter in November. But anyway, I'm out here. We're going to have a lot of fun this morning. My little project that I've been working on that I want to show you today. This is going to be fun. You know, I have, as Bridget says, the luck of the Irish. So this is the new idea I've been playing with my new non-hollowing hollow form. You don't have to hollow this. I dropped it last night. I dropped it on its head and cracked it. Can you believe that? But it's true. I did. I dropped it. Oh well, it's got some super glue on it, and we're not going to let that slow us down. So let me look over here and see who's in here this morning and say good morning. I see Dick Gerard is here. Good morning, Dick. Chris, Erica, John Phillips, Lorianne, my dad. Let me move my mouse around over here, wherever it went. There's some folks over on YouTube as well. I can't see their names though, but they're there. Get my other chat box up. I got too many boxes. Oh, Dick, you're on YouTube. Where are you at, Dick? Which one you on? You're everywhere, Dick. Anyway, good to see you guys. This has been a fun little project I've been working on. So you're probably wondering, well, Bradley, how in the world are you making a hollow form that doesn't need hollowing, right? No mold, no cast to it, anything like that. Feel free to ask all kinds of questions over here today if you want. That's what we're here for a new project like this. Good morning, Lewis. So I started thinking about this a while back, actually a year ago. I have tried different methods. Some of you might have been in, I think it was Detroit or Milwaukee. I think it was Milwaukee. I tried doing this with styrofoam, with a styrofoam ball, and that does work. You can put, this is the Chromacraft gel resin. You can put gel resin over a styrofoam ball, and it will set up, and you have a mold, and then you pour acetone in there, and it will dissolve it. And I thought, well, okay, that works. It was kind of messy, and you still have to clean it up. And what if you wanted to have some clear areas, right? So then you'd see inside it, and it might not be the smoothest thing in the world. And my first attempt at it was a failure anyway, but that's how new things go. So I started getting this idea, and I came up with using, are you ready for it now? A balloon. Something just as simple as an everyday, ordinary balloon, okay? There we go. So that's what we're going to work with, using a balloon. And let me kind of give you an idea how this works. I have another one down here that's in a partial stage. And you can see today that I've got the table in front of me and the lathe here. We need to do a little bit of turning. So inside this one, and I'm going to go overhead. It's not the perfect overhead shot. There we go. But you can see inside here a balloon that got too cold. So the balloon that you see inside of here is the structure that we're putting our gel resin onto. And it's actually working quite well. Now, it's not without its trials and errors, and that's why it's taken me a little while to get here for you with it. But you can see what's going on. Now, if I turn it upside down, you'll see here in the very bottom, the end of the balloon sticking out. All right? So what we have to do is we have to make a base that goes, the balloon's going to go into, that the balloon can come out through the bottom, okay? Let me go back over to the front here. So that's kind of the basic idea. Now, what happened to this one? You see the top here, and it looks like kind of caved in. Well, I had mold release on this. I thought I had enough, and you would think a latex balloon wouldn't stick to the resin, right? So even with a little bit of mold release on it, this one wasn't quite cured yet, and I left it out in the shop overnight, and it got cold, and the balloon shrank, and when it shrank, it pulled the top in with it, okay? Now this one could still be turned into a hollow form, and we got a hole there, but we still have the whole basis here. All right. So this one is not out of the, not unsalvageable by any means. That's where the basic premise came from. So I'm coating a balloon multiple times, and I have another balloon down here that I've already sprayed mold release on and letting it dry, because I have found that if the mold release, if you don't let it dry when you're trying to work with it, it's really slippery. And I also went to a different brand. This is Eject It mold release. On the other ones I'd been using Smooth It. It works great. It's super slippery, but it seems to stay slippery. This is dry to the touch now, so it should be a little bit better for me. If you have Stoner or any of the others, I'm sure they'll work for you. But this is our basic mold, just an everyday, ordinary balloon. And there's all kinds of different sizes, as you know, and this is like the cheapest mold in the world. And when we turn the inside of this, or when we cut the top open, the balloon recedes, and we can pull it out through the bottom or through the top, or you can just leave it in there if you want to. So we'll be coating this one up. No, we'll be not going to coat. I'm going to recoat this one because I broke it. I want to get some more on it. But this is the one that we're going to mount into our piece. And I've got resin down here. Now this is the Chromacraft gel resin that Spirocraft carries, and you have about a 2-hour working time with this, 2 to 3 hours. So I mixed this up at 8:30 this morning, and I'll show it to you in the overhead. You can see that it's a fairly thick, and I'll go back to the front camera here in a second. And I took it back in the house because, like I said, it's actually far too cold out here today, really to be doing this. But I will mix this up, and we'll put this on here after a while, and we'll take it back in the house, in the pressure pot, and let it cure. Now, speaking of the pressure pot, you're probably wondering, well, do you have to have a pressure pot for this? I recommend it, but I think in the first several coats, I have not used it, and I don't think you need to. If you have a vacuum chamber, you could degas the resin, suck some of the air bubbles out, but I haven't had any problem really with bubbles in the initial stages. Now this particular one right here, because it's been cold on us, I put it in the pressure pot for about 4 hours and wanted to take it out and bring it in where it was warm, so I don't have heat out here. And it hadn't truly set up yet, so I do have a few little bubbles on it. I do believe had I left it in the pressure pot the whole time, I wouldn't have had any bubbles on it. So I'm kind of fighting the temperature out here. Resin likes to be comfortable. It likes to be 70 degrees, 72 degrees, somewhere in there. It doesn't like to be cold. It doesn't like to be hot. So that's a little bit finicky. So I'm going to set this guy off to the side. And like I said, I've got both the table and the lathe here, so it's a little goofy. But I've got an end shot for you. Greg Wallace, good morning. Get over here and scroll around. So many fun little windows to keep up with. There's Art Miller. I was wondering where you were, buddy. Okay, we got to make a base. All right. So end of an old bowl, chunk of wood, anything that you have that'll make a base. Now we need to return this one to fit our balloon. And it's, I don't know, this was half of a box, a lidded box, and I don't know where the other half is, and I grabbed this morning, so it's all good to go. So I'm going to return this, clean it up, put a new tenon on it. We're going to drill a hole through here. And it's not just a hole. We need to make a hole plus a little recess. I've been learning a ton as we go on here, and I'll show you as we do it. Let me go to the end camera here. There we go. So we're going to put this guy in the chuck. You need to make a separate little recess for the balloon tail, if you will, to stick in. Because otherwise I find that it wobbles around. Let me make sure I got this in here right. It wobbles around when you try and set it down. And I've had a number of incidences where things fell over, it wobbled, or it wobbled in a bowl that's catching the resin, different things like that. All right, so this guy's kind of messy. We'll clean this up. We won't do much turning today. I had hoped maybe to turn on the other piece there, but because I broke it last night, unfortunately, I'm not going to get to. And I think it still needs a few more coats. And on that real quick, let me change cameras back and explain something. It doesn't take much resin. So I'm a big fan of yogurt cups, right? And this is about 5 fluid ounces when they say on the side 5.3 for your yogurt. I fill it up to the little line up in here, and I just checked it this morning. So that's 6 fluid ounces of resin, and then it's 2 to 1, so another 3 ounces of hardener. So we're using 9 ounces for a coat, and you actually pretty much get to use most of it if things don't go too crazy on you. And I just saw over here across the room the original attempt at this, and I'm going to bring it over here and show you, and I'll tell you what happened with that. Let me change the camera so you don't see me walking in front of it. It was too fun when I did this. I'll put in piece in a minute. So here is the original. I have to look and see which camera I'm on. My little base, and this blob is a balloon. And then this was the extra resin, not the extra resin, but all. And let me change cameras. I'm going to go to the end because I know you can see it in the end here. And I get right down in here. A little close up. So that blob right there is the balloon. My first time that I did this, I didn't think about putting a balloon into a pressure pot and putting 70 pounds of air. And I was so excited. I made my base, and I had it in a bowl, or in a bucket in this case. And I put all my resin on there. You see in the picture that I posted earlier, probably 3 weeks ago, maybe a month ago. This thing is going to be so cool. I had one coat, one heavy coat with all these colors. So there was no, this was a exoskeleton, if you will, for the way these work. So at this stage, and I put it in the pressure pot and put the air to it. And immediately sitting on the couch, I went, it's going to collapse that balloon. There's no strength to it yet. There's no structure. It's going to just completely shrink and collapse. And sure enough, that's what happened. So you only make that mistake once, and then you won't do that again. The dog ate your homework. All right. All right, let me get over here. Lost my mouse again. I always lose my mouse in here. Where did you go? There you are. Hey, I see Fred's over on YouTube. Good morning, Fred. So that was my first attempt. Crash and burn. That's how we learn. I'm not worried about it. I'm going to move the resin. I'm going to put a paper towel over this resin right here so I don't get any chips in it. So let's make our little base right here. Switch back over to the end camera. And again, like I said, if anybody has questions, feedback, I shouldn't be feeding back. Is anybody else hearing feedback other than Arthur? Y'all let me know. Going to make our little base here now. So I think I will just start with just a square cutter to get this guy trued up. And make our little base. Make a new tenon. Then we'll turn it around and finish turning it on its new tenon. Got my caliper set for a smaller tenon. I would actually go with the bigger tenon. And you see here, this is going to be 1 and 5/8 or whatever the small one is for easy wood. That makes it kind of teetery. This was the only thing I could find real quick this morning. Of course, I wasn't 100% ready. I would go with the 2-inch tenon or even a 3-inch tenon for a bigger base. You can always turn that away. But make yourself a small enough or big enough tenon that you have a stable platform for the piece to sit on while you're working on it. At least the wind is calmed down outside. It was banging. I got some yard art fish that hang on the building, and they were banging on the building like crazy. Put on my face shield here. This might sound a little bit different. Loose mic connection. Mic is tight. That's for sure. Might be some other gremlin in here today. Let me check something here real quick. I'm going to mute this for a second. Okay, well everything is tight, so I'm not sure what's causing the feedback kind of sound. I do apologize for that. Since I can't hear it on this end, kind of hard to tell. And my meters are pegging a little bit. Let me turn the volume down. That might be some of it. Doo-doo-doo-doo. How about that? Tell me if that's any better. I pulled that mic volume down. I don't know how it got up so high. Because everything else is turned off in here. All right. We'll see if that fixes it. You guys let me know. Do a little turn in here real quick. So you can see that guy's kind of moved around over the years. I'm trying not to make any more mess than I have to. I can work with that. All right. That part. Put a little bit of shape to it while we're here. Now you don't have to do this out of wood if you don't want to. You can do it. You can make a resin base. I haven't done that yet, but I was thinking about it. I go, there's no reason we couldn't make a resin base and do the same thing. All right, good. Sound is better. Art, thank you. I appreciate that. It's always some gremlin for me, you know it. It's always some gremlin hanging around. Put in the smaller jaws here. Once I get this turned, I'll take this face mask off. If you hear that banging out there, that's the fish. Fish banging on the studio. It's a beautiful day out there. There's not a cloud out. So that's pretty cool. We had rain over the weekend, so we've lost all our leaves, finally. Got some old duct tape on here. That's no big deal. It'll turn that right away. Alrighty. Now, one thing I do want to check, see if I'm still in range here. So this daisy cup is going to be my holder. So this shouldn't go too far down in. It won't go all the way down in, and that's going to be just about what I want. Help hold some of that resin. That's where we'll drill our hole. Okay. Now my fancy drill bit, which if you haven't seen this before, fancy drill bit is just a long twist bit with a handle, homemade handle on it. Nothing fancy about it. Okay. Does the trick though. Turn that speed down a little bit. Maybe 500 or so. Okay, so that's our hole on the inside. All right. So now I'll turn this around. I'm going to turn it around because I want to put a step on the outside in that hole. So I'm going to have to change jaws here too. Let's see. Now that I know which jaws are going to hold this. That'll work. Okay, so I'll put the big jaws back on. So I'm going to put a step right in here. Let's see, go like that. So right here in the hole on the bottom, on the outside, we're going to put a bigger hole for the balloon tail to sit in. Okay, does that make good sense? And I'll check over here. Scroll down. All right. Let's change jaws out real quick again. Now I've got my digital thermal thermometer here, and I'm curious to see what this resin's going to be doing because it's like I say, it's so cool out here. It was getting warm when it was in the house, and I'm sure that it has cooled off and slowed down. And I'm looking down at the paper towel I put over top of it, and I'm glad I did because I see that there's chips of wood on it, and we don't really want the chips of wood in this, in the resin. And I'll add color to it. We'll divide it up into 3 units and add color to it for that part of the game. Just enough to hold that rim isn't very thick, so I just want to hold it enough to hold it. There we go. And we'll make a little bit bigger recess in the bottom here. Mr. Niedermiller, how you doing, sir? All right, let's see. I think I'm going to use detail tool. Tool rest just a tick high. Just making a little space for the balloon body to tail to hide in. Learning these things, new projects, new processes are always evolving, which is the fun thing about doing this kind of stuff. That should do the trick. Okay. Back up front here. So we'll take this guy out. There's, like I say, there's not a whole lot of turning to get to this point. Very simple. And let me go overhead for you so you can see this guy. There we go. Simple little cup. Got our extra hole in the bottom. Okay. Like I say, if anybody's got any questions out there, you just holler at me. And good morning, Mary Alice. Good to see you. We're having fun out here today. So let me clean up here a little bit. I don't think I need the lathe anymore. So I'm going to actually wiggle it back out of the way. Make myself a little bit of room to get to the table. So let me give you guys for a moment. I'm going to give you back to us, and we're out here. Good. All right. So there's our base. Now, here's our first balloon that I did before. I was thinking about this morning, and I'm going to try something that I haven't tried. I'm just going to do this for yucks. I want to see, and I'm not sure how it'll work, if we can put the balloon through the hole before we tie the knot. You have to be careful because the balloons tear pretty easy. But I'm curious to see if it will stay tight when we do this. This is live, so we're playing with new ideas. And it may or may not work. These balloons are cheap at the dollar store. So I'm not terribly worried about it. If I tear one up. Okay. Okay. So my balloon now comes out the bottom. Oops, I went too far, Bradley. Uh-oh. I pulled on it. Get back up in there. Ah! I don't want to poke it too much with the pencil. I don't want to put a hole in it. It's a great idea. There we go. So that's what I meant to do, was have it where I could hold on to both sides of it. The breeze is blowing things around through the window. So what I want to see, so I don't know if this is going to work or not. If we can tie the knot with the balloon already in place, and have it still be tight. It's got to be tight in your little base here. Almost got it. Now I don't know if I can get the knot to slide down. So that would work. All right. So there's our balloon in our base, and the knot is up inside the hole so that it sits flat, right? And that's really good. That's what you want. Now, the reason I've done this in the past, the first ones with the balloon first, blowing it up, is that you don't want to spray mold release onto your base, because then the resin's not going to stick. All right. Now this piece here, it had resin all the way down here, and you can leave it there, and eventually I might want to go ahead and let this cover up with resin. Just haven't decided. You can have any kind of base you want. But that's the one thing to keep in mind for this approach. Now, you could go ahead and mask this off. You could tape this base off and spray it. Or the balloon could get away from you like that, and you don't have to worry about it. So you can do that. That's one way that works. This one's already been done. It's already been sprayed. So, of course, when you're doing this and nobody's watching, it's not hard. With you guys all watching, it'll probably fight me. There we go. Okay? So there's our balloon mounted in the base. How cool is that? So that's our mold. That's our form. Now, the next thing that's important to think about, and this is why I should have maybe left this on the lathe, you want to be sure that your balloon is centered in the base. All right? If the balloon is off center from the base when you put it in the lathe, and I'm going to change these jaws and just do this from the back side. We're going to make this work because I want to show you what I'm talking about. So let me change these jaws real quick. Because we're not building up a lot of resin, we're not filling it full and casting it. If we filled that up, that would be 1.5 quarts of resin probably to do it, and then you'd have to turn it all away. So these little steps that we're doing here, we can make this thing 1/8 of an inch thick and not have to use nearly the amount of resin. But if it's not true on its axis to the top, or as close as you can get it, then you won't be able to turn it on the lathe to clean up for the final finish turn if it's way out of whack. Does that make sense? Sorry for turning sideways on you. It's a last minute change in my program, as they say. All right. Well, let me show you what I'm talking about here. And I put the wrong jaws on while I was talking to you like that. Can you believe that? I can. Good thing it's an easy chuck with quick change jaws, huh? Good morning, Al. How you doing? Thanks for stopping in. Hope you enjoy watching me change chuck jaws over and over till I get the right ones. But having this centered, and this one that I have here, now that I'm changing this, we'll see. I'll show you that it's out a little bit. So let's pop this guy back in here. Trying not to stand in my own way. Okay. Now this lathe only goes down to 150. Oh, I unplugged it. Rocket scientist that I am. Hang on just a second. Don't you love live? Change as we go. All right. Now let's try that. So if you can see, Now, in the camera that you're looking at, it doesn't look like it's out too much. Let me see if I can get this camera. I'm going to adjust the side camera so you can see what's going on here. And it'll make sense to you because that other one's pretty far away. And of course there's no good way for me to get over there. I'm just going to walk over here. Okay, so you can see now that that is not turning centered. So I'll sneak around back over here. Try and come in under the camera. And what you'd want to do is attempt to adjust this until it's as centered as you can get it. You know, you have to work with it. But this is key. I would spend some time. I'm not going to spend a long time today as I'm not really worried about this one in particular. But that's something to keep in mind, and you can keep adjusting on this. You may have to work with your tail a little bit on your balloon. All right? And work with that until you get it as true as it can possibly be. All right? Does that make sense? Hope so. So I'm going to come over here, and I'll show you how this other one, this is why I think we need probably, this one has 3 layers on it, and I think you probably need more like 6. We'll put this one in and you'll see that it's not perfectly true either. Don't drop it, rather you'll break it again. And I'm just going to turn this one by hand. And so you can see it's out a little bit. Now I could adjust that, and what my plan is once I get it all cast or layered up, I'm going to put it between centers and make my tenon. I'll get it true to turn true and make my tenon, retrue my tenon to make it turn true. So that's my plan there. So I don't know that you can never get it truly just perfect. But once we could recenter it, don't put it in a chuck. Put your tailstock up here with whatever, maybe a rubber chucky or whatever, and a cone up on this end, and get it centered, and then retrue this tenon if you feel you want to turn it. Okay. So again, we have our balloon inside, and our first exo shell. So that's what we're going to paint on this one today. Actually, no, I'm putting it on this one. Excuse me. We would paint just a clear coat. I wouldn't put anything on, any coloring in here. There's no need to. But I'm going to keep building this one up. So let's get our resin up here and see what we got going on. So it's starting to get pretty thick. So has anybody got any questions on how we got to this stage? If you do, let me know. That is your mold. That's your base. That's your form. I'm going to set this guy off to the side. And let me check here real quick on this. Okay. So, with my thermometer, now that I brought this back out in the cold, it says my resin is 87.8, 88.5, 80, there it goes. It's bouncing around depending on where I touch it. So it's almost 90 degrees. And it's maybe 50 out here now, maybe. All right. So it's starting to get pretty thick. The thicker it is, and the closer to not running at all, the better off you are. But it's a timing issue. If you tried to do this with any regular fast-setting resin, I don't think you can pull it off. Alumilite, even the slow, at 15 minutes between mixing and kicking off, I don't think you could do it. But with the long open time of the Chromacraft, and especially in the gel, even just the regular Chromacraft liquid, the 2000, LV, you wouldn't be, it would just all run off. This gel makes it what makes this possible. Okay? So, next thing is to get out my pressure paper towel up here, and we're going to divide this up and make some colors. So we'll color this up. I'm standing in the way of the overhead. I don't know if I can adjust that to where you can do an overhead shot or not. Let me zip this over to where you're. And back. I'm back. I love my switcher. So happy that I got that. Okay, so we're going to divide this resin into roughly 3 equals. I hear the local city workers picking up all the leaves that I got up last week. It's leaf falling season finally for us here. So as this gets thick, I'm going to have to go pretty quick because I can tell it's starting to want to get pretty slow. Okay. Get in here and scrape the bottom of this. Don't want to waste any. And I haven't, yeah, have I changed? Yeah. No. Let me change to the overhead. Well, I'll change you to overhead when I get this all in here. I'm in the middle of it now. So, all your disposable cups are great. Save them all for this. Disposable chip brushes from Harbor Freight, everybody's favorite. Okay. And yes, I have gloves that I'm going to put on in just a minute. And this is going to be pretty thick, but that's okay. That's what we want. The thicker it is, the less it's going to run down. And I'm going to have to get a brush out here in a second. This is because of the cold, I think it's why it's thickened back up. I had it in the house overnight to keep it warm. Okay. And my gloves are, I got them out earlier, and then I hit them on myself, so I'll get out 2 more. Okay, and let's go to the overhead. Let's end, Brad. Go to the overhead there, and we'll get this stuff mixed up. Get my gloves on. So I have the same 3 colors again. As I start to build the finish layers, I want to use the same 3 colors, so that as when we turn through the different layers, we still have the same basic colors all going. Okay. One's going to be white. One's going to be turquoise. And one's going to be phthalo blue. And I'll use a stick for each. So it's not because of the time or the temperature, or the temperature of the resin, but it's the temperature outside here. This is starting to get really thick. All right. And what I have found is you'd be surprised how much it still moves around, even at this viscosity. As it sits, gravity never quits trying to do its thing on our stuff. Toss these sticks away. Now, so you don't make a huge mess out of everything. I'd like to get another bowl in place. Some room here. Okay. Here's my piece again. Back in its holder. Daisy sour cream. So now it's in the piece. It's solid, it's stable. Okay. Back to that. Yep, okay. So it's not going to fall over, and you can put your finger on the top, all right? A brush for each color. Don't do that. That's about the dumbest thing I've done in a long time. It helps to take, think I was in a hurry? It helps to take the wrapper off the silly brushes, Bradley. Yeah. I do this for a living. Let go. I lost a bunch of resin there. Oh well. If that's the only mistake I make in life, I'll be all good. Alright. And just hold her down with your finger in the center. And this resin is actually getting really thick on me. And start to apply. I know it looks crazy, and it may be going off a little bit more than I thought. I'm going to take the wrapper off. We'll get it spread out here, and it'll slow down a little bit. Probably going to get some on my table after all. So I got 3 colors on the top. Now I'm going to come down to the bottom and brush up with the 3 colors. And then we will blend it all around. Because I can see it still wants to run. So that's, I mean, it wants to, it's flowing a little bit, and that's good. We don't want it to not flow at all. That would mean we were definitely too late on the bus here. And we don't want that. But it's not far. Not far away from being too late on the bus. Okay. And let the blending begin. Admittedly, this one decided it was going to go ahead and move on its own setup, even though it was cold. And it's definitely not going to run. That's for sure. What I'm going to do is go change brushes back and forth and around and about. And you'll see that we'll get our colors in here. All right. And it will smooth out. You'll be surprised. It will continue to move. It has surprised me how much it moves after the fact. And there we go. Getting everything covered. And I know it looks all gummy and globby, but it will continue to move. Admittedly, it's usually a little less viscous than it is this morning now because of the time on factor that I got into. So this is right up against the window of time. But that's all right. Because we haven't lost any resin. So all 9 ounces are going to the buildup of our piece. And so I'm just going to keep on working this for a few minutes and get my colors as blended as I can. You can see how this is starting to come around. And they do flow together. I'll get some white on this turquoise over here, if I can get a little bit more out of here. And so where my finger is going to be the hole anyway. All right. So that's why it's nice to have it where you can push down on it. And like I said, it looks lumpy, but it is going to flow out. Maybe not 100%. This one is probably the thickest I've had. That won't work, just turn the whole bucket. Because it's still starting to run down the side, drain down. So I go backwards and forwards and sideways across it. And then it starts to do its thing. Okay. All right. A little more blending right in here. Cool. Now I just let that. I'll go throw it in a pressure pot when I get done here today. Get that out of the way. I'll throw that in the pressure pot and push away the bubbles. Get my gloves off. And I'll pull it. I'll go to the overhead for you so you can see how it looks in the different colors there. Okay. And I can see it running down the sides. So I'm gonna, you keep working it. You can't walk away, and all these colors are starting to flow together. I know it looked all lumpy, and it's got some humps to it, but it is flowing out. So don't let it fool you, thinking that it's just because this is such a slow curing resin. You can see these colors are starting to flow together. And I don't know if you can see on the front camera, some of it's coming down the sides. All right. Now what we've done though, by putting our cup, this cup into our base, throw these in here. We'll use this one as an example. Oh, I'm overhead, aren't I? Let me go reach. No, I'm all right. That keeps, well, that one doesn't fit that, but it keeps it from filling up our tenon. Okay? We don't want our tenon to get filled up. So that's what's good, is to have the tenon not get messed up. Now I brought another, I'm going to just push this forward. Another thing you can do, I've talked about it before, my Play-Doh. I finally picked up some more again the other day. Play-Doh, modeling clay, things like that. All right. We can come right in here. This is cold, it's been out here overnight. But you can come in and fill up. You would get this nice and warm. Fill up. And I'll go to the other camera. Do the overhead. Where your tenon is, there we go. That would make sure, because the last thing you want is to get resin in your tenon area. So we fill up our tenon with the modeling clay or the Play-Doh, and we won't have any resin in there. Now you can see on this one how the balloon still sticks out the bottom, so that's why that's not good. All right. What time is it anyway? 11 o'clock. 11 o'clock. Let's see. Any kind of questions here? Do-do-do-do. If any kind of questions at all, fire them at me. Like I say, this is a pretty fun way, if you think about it, and I'm watching this all start to blend and flow, even though, like I said, it was really thick, but gravity does its job on it. Now that probably was right at the limit. Honestly, it was a little bit thicker than I had anticipated it would be, being this cold, and it's only right at, well, it's 2.5 hours. But it's cold. It kind of surprised me. But it's still flowing together, and it will continue to flow. But we're not really using very much resin, okay? And our balloon is going to pop loose whenever we break that loose in there. And the closer to center that is when we turn it, it's going to be fine. Your base can be any kind of base. You can have a wooden base. You can have a resin base, anything like that. So I think there's a world of potential here for different things that we can do with this. And again, I'm just watching this sit here and flow. The colors are starting to blend together. And so probably the question that I have, and I bet you do too, how thick does this need to be? Or how thin can we leave it and be able to, say, return the outside? Or do we have to return the outside? I see some bubbles are starting to come out of here. So that's why it's going to go into the pressure pot. So how thick or thin can we be on this? Don't know for sure. If I wasn't going to ever turn it, didn't have to turn it at all, if I could get a finish I was happy with, it wouldn't matter. You could be just a little bit less than this. Knowing what I know about the resin, I'm thinking 3/16 to 1/4 of an inch will be fine. 1/4 inch would definitely be enough thickness. 1/16 of an inch, this is 64th, probably per coat, maybe, I don't know. Of course, it would take a lot of coats if it was only a 64th. So it's getting pretty thick. And again, I'm watching these colors blend together. And I'm happy with that. So it's pretty simple in a lot of ways. It's not expensive, no expensive molds, just your balloons from the department store, Family Dollar, Dollar Tree, wherever you go to get your supplies. The key is a gel resin. With a regular liquid resin, you're not going to get it. We need the slow setting resin. Again, I mixed this at 8:30 this morning, and I'm still putting it on. So a gel style resin, and you can do any kind of colors you want to with it. It mixes like any other resin. I'll do a shameless plug. Spirecraft has it on sale still right now. All the Chromacraft products are 20% off, I think, in the store. I think the code is CC20, I do believe. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong. I should know. I made up the codes, but too many things in the brain. But again, any kind of questions? How thick will the final wall be? So my dad asked me that question, and of course I think I beat you to it, Dad. But leave it to Pop to know, or to ask. Anyway, this is what I've been working on, and I'm really excited about it because it's not that much cost. I think a whole quart and a half of resin is 45, 50 bucks, somewhere in there. So, and imagine, and no hollowing. Imagine having to hollow all that out with a hollowing tool. So that would take you a while to get that all hollowed out, and all that resin that you had in there would just be thrown away. All right? And so in this day and age, we're trying to save money. We're trying to save materials. We're saving everything. This is the least wasteful method that I can come up with so far to make a resin hollow form and not waste any resin. I mean, there's literally, in this one today, there's literally no waste, other than just what I couldn't scoop out of the jars. So that's it. That's how I'm making the all resin hollow forms with no hollowing needed. Once you hollow open that hole right there, it's done on the inside. It's smooth. It's good to go. How you want to do your base, open to interpretation, creativity, anything you want to try. The sky's the limit. I mean, I've got a million different ideas on how to do bases. You could build, if you can see, let me go to overhead real quick while I'm finishing this up. You see this space, this gap between, let me do it here. All right, I got to get the right thing. You can blend, you could fill this if you wanted to, or you can turn this wood away more, or if it was a resin base that you had made, you can blend all that in once you have your structure made. So you can make this arc continue on, this curve finish out to a final shape. That's why you could go either way. If you wanted to have a nice wood base in there or resin, and then you can finish that shape. So I think there's a lot of potential for this method. I like it. Not that I thought of it, and I don't know. Maybe other people have been doing this. I don't know. I'm not, I just don't know about that. So I'm not trying to claim that I was the only one to ever think of it at all. But I'm happy to share it with everybody because I think it's a pretty cool idea, and it's a lot of fun, and there's a lot of different things that we can do with it. And so if there's no more questions around, I'm going to check on this one other spot over here in YouTube. And I don't see anything. So this will be one of my shortest ones. We'll be done in and out of here in an hour, and my feet are cold anyway. I thank you very much. I'll be back next Monday. Don't ask me what I'm up to yet. I don't know. But we'll come back next Monday with another fun project, and hopefully it'll be a little bit warmer. I hope you enjoyed this. You guys send me some emails. Pop me a note or send in Messenger. Let me know what you thought of this, what you think of the idea and the concept, and if you want to try it. If you got other questions that you didn't ask here, like I say, shoot me a note. I don't mind answering. I'd be happy to. So everybody, y'all have a nice day, and I will see you next Monday at 10 o'clock. Thanks a lot for coming by. Bye.